It does not meet the test of a currency. I wouldn't be surprised if it's not around in 10 or 20 years.
I think it's primarily going to be a means of doing illegal transactions.
If you're stupid enough to buy it, you'll pay the price for it one day.
Cryptocurrencies are the first step to a world with a global, programmable money.
There are still so many misconceptions, and none of us knows what the future holds. But one thing is certain, the future is clearly crypto.
Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain!
Bitcoin recently came under fire as transaction fees skyrocketed in December to as much as $40 per transaction. Although less than a month later, transaction fees have dropped to a much more reasonable rate of around 10 cents per transaction. It got me thinking that if we are judging Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies on their ability to serve as a payment platform by the transaction fees associated with them, then maybe we should take a look at the transaction fees associated with the incumbent system of credit and debit cards. Billions of people all around the world use debit and credit cards every day to rack up trillions of dollars in purchases every year. Most of these people probably never give a second thought as to what the fees associated with those payments really are. Every time you swipe your card or make an online payment, the merchant that you're buying from pays between 0.75 to 2.5% on every transaction. This means that when you go to the grocery store and whip out that shiny new Visa card to pay for your $400 in cheesy poofs and Hot Pockets, the grocery store could be paying up to $10 to process that transaction. Okay, well, so what? It doesn't cost you anything, right? Wrong. This is all factored into the cost of doing business, and the merchant is passing that cost on to you in the form of higher prices on merchandise. But that's just one angle on this. We all know that credit card fraud is a serious problem these days. It's estimated that there was nearly $20 billion with a B worth of credit card fraud in the US alone. But so what? You're protected by the card company against this, correct? Of course you are. If you dispute the charges, you'll get refunded almost every time. This is because the card company isn't covering the chargeback. By law, this is covered by the merchant, which can be extremely costly, especially for smaller merchants, where profit margins are already tiny. These fraud chargebacks are also factored into the cost of doing business, but it's ultimately passed on to the consumers in the form of higher prices. The card companies are making obscene amounts of cash on this business model, and I won't even get into how they rob people of their financial future through the money they make on interest and penalties on those credit card purchases. Like most aspects of the banking and financial system, great effort goes into obfuscating this information and encouraging consumers to continue spending, and most importantly, putting it on those credit cards. We see this with the growing number of cards being issued and the rewards programs that come along with each. I was reading the other day that if you took all the credit cards in circulation and line them up, they would stretch all the way across the equator nearly 2 times over. While cryptocurrencies aren't perfect and may not be ready for mainstream adoption just yet, they do hold the promise of being able to transact globally, near instantly, and at zero or low cost. This will happen much sooner than you think. The credit card companies and big banks are terrified, and if they aren't, they should be. The technology is here, it cannot be uninvented, and it will not go away. This has been your first look behind the curtain.
Welcome to Clearly Crypto. I'm your host, Cory, and my host.
And I'm your host, Aaron.
I'm kind of the noob to the whole space here, still figuring it out. Aaron's my sensei over here.
Yeah, sure, we'll go with that for now, huh?
So tell the folks a little about you, Aaron.
Okay, so I've started in the crypto space, I think late 2012, early 2013. Started buying Bitcoin and kind of became an obsession after that. Kind of fell down the rabbit hole, started reading, getting my hands on everything I could possibly read, videos, and just learned as much as I possibly could. So been doing it for quite a while. Cory's been a neighbor and a good friend of mine, so I kind of drug him into it, kicking and screaming, and got him hooked now as well. So
yeah, so that's me in 2016, was it? Let's see. Bitcoin was worth $420.
Yeah, so go back on the charts and look
at so when that's when I bought in and got my first Bitcoin. Thank you, Aaron.
Yeah, you're
appreciate
welcome.
that.
Let's see, hopefully it continues to reward you.
Yeah, so why are we doing this?
Well, so when I started, a friend of mine introduced me to it But this was a lot earlier as well, and there really wasn't much out there. There was a lot of misinformation, a lot of crap that I had to dig through to actually get down to the truth of it. So if you're listening to us, you probably already have some type of interest in crypto. Maybe you've been in it for a while, or maybe you're brand new to the space. But what we want to do is try to basically make that process easier for you than it was for me. So to kind of cut through some of the bullshit, help you guys get started with it, help you understand it on a level to where you can kind of build from there. So
Yeah, I know. I think as recently as like 4 or 6 months ago, I was looking through different podcast feeds and there was nothing. I found one and it was just a bunch of jargon that I had no clue what was going on. And I'm not very good at just sitting paging through thousands of pages of Reddit trying to figure out what's going on. That's your job.
Right, and I've done a lot of that. I've probably got somewhere between 5,000 to 10,000 hours of studying, reading, listening, learning in. So I'm in this. I'm deep in it. So hopefully I can help you guys get through a lot of that. And as Cory was saying, there are some really good other podcasts out there, but you have to have a good base knowledge when they start talking into getting into the Lightning Network and Merkle roots and things of that nature. Usually that's way over most people's heads. So
my head
probably won't dive that deep into it. But just give you guys somewhere to start and kind of give you the basics of crypto and then progress as we go through. So.
Yeah, well, and some without giving too much PII, personally identifiable information. That's a thing with crypto too, is you don't have to do that anymore.
Right.
So without giving too much of that away, we are located in Japan at the moment. We are neighbors and we got families and we are friends, have been for a few years now, with full-time jobs and all that goes along with that. So
yeah, very busy.
Yeah. So right now we're looking at doing about a episode a month. I know that's not a lot. If you guys like the show, I'm sorry.
Maybe we'll progress. I think as we go, we might be able to pump some more out a little bit quicker. We've been working on this for a few weeks already. And getting ready to finish up the first one.
I'm still learning how to podcast.
Right.
I've listened a ton, but, recreating is a little bit more difficult.
Right.
So working on that. So that's what we're going to try to do. We're going to try to do monthly, and hopefully you guys will like the show. We're on iTunes. We're on Beyond Pod. We're on Stitcher. You can follow us on Facebook.
Follow us on Telegram,
Twitter. We have a Gmail account. It's clearly cryptopod@gmail.com. Mm-hmm. So listener involvement's great because we think we sound great and we have a lot of ideas, but you can suggest topics, tell us where we got things wrong. Just get a conversation going because honestly, we're all learning this together.
Yeah, exactly. I've been doing it for a long time, but I still get confused on things, and I might say something that's completely inaccurate. So if you guys are deep in the space and listening, let me know if we need to backtrack and correct something that we've said. I'm all about doing that. So.
Yeah, the crypto revolution, it's a lot about community, honestly, because it's still a niche. It hasn't taken over yet. We are the founding members of this new financial system that's coming through. You're involved
revolution.
Now. Yeah, and you're involved, and we want you to be involved. So definitely look us up on all those different Facebook, Twitter, Telegram, email. I'll check the email, I promise.
And we may respond. No, we'll make our best efforts to get back to you guys.
So, hopefully everybody gets something out of this. What is our vision for the show? Well, kind of like Aaron was talking about earlier, everybody's still learning. And I know for me, I'm still a big old noob in this. So we want to go over the basics of, hey, what is cryptocurrency? How do I get it? What do I do with it?
Why does it matter? Why should you care?
Yeah, that kind of stuff. He's better at that kind of stuff because I got it. I can do stuff with it. I know there's all kinds of politics involved with people's backgrounds and all. He and I are a little bit different on that, which is kind of cool because you're probably a little bit more libertarian with your view of the crypto world. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, it was born of libertarian ideas and ideals, so it's changed a little bit over the years, but it's really still strongly rooted in libertarian ideas. So.
Yeah, which I'm not as libertarian as you, so it goes just to show you that your political ideology doesn't really have to impact your want to be into this crypto revolution. To me, it's a useful thing that has value for me, hopefully in the future and to go. So right now, let's date this episode.
Okay.
Bitcoin's worth about 8,700.
Yeah, it's been dropping pretty drastically here over the last couple days, few weeks, really.
Bye.
Yeah. It's not financial advice.
Exactly. That's what we forgot to say. Obviously, like we said, normal guys, we're not financial advisors. This podcast, as informational as it might be, is for entertainment purposes only. Don't sue us if you make a bad trade.
Right. It's our opinion only. Do not make any buy, sell, or hold decisions based on what we're saying. We're not financial advisors. That's all on you. This is merely our opinions.
There you go. You've been warned, and now the legalese stuff is out of the way.
That's right.
So now we can have fun. Bitcoin, it's been doing a huge correction lately. All of current coins have been doing it lately.
Right. So what did we say? 8,700. What is today's date? It's Friday,
today's
the
the
2nd
of
of
February.
February. Yes. So.
Yeah. So month ago it was up to 20 grand. A little over a month ago.
Yeah, I think right about the middle of December, and it hit kind of a high of $20,000 and has been slowly bleeding down from there, which a lot of people say, Bitcoin's crashing. What's going on? There is a big correction, but if you zoom out on the charts, we started last January at less than $1,000. I think it was right around $800 or $900, and then kind of crept up from there. So if you zoom out a little bit, this correction, or this crash, as a lot of people like to say, you're still up 400% or 500% if you were buying in February of last year.
Well, it seems like, I know there's some stuff going on with like Tether and different countries deciding what they're going to do with crypto. But I think, correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of it seems to be a lot of bandwagon people that they saw the price going up. They're like, I'm going to jump into that and pay for everybody's college and 3 houses. And, oh no, it went down a little bit. Sell.
Yeah, there's a lot of factors. Anytime you're looking at a market of this size, it was about 600 billion. I think it's probably down around $400 billion market cap. And that's all cryptocurrencies. But yeah, there was a massive pump. A lot of people that didn't know what they were doing just saw it going up. They didn't even understand what Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies were, and they started throwing money at it because they wanted to jump on that bandwagon. And then you get a little bit of FUD, fear, uncertainty, or doubt entering the market. And all those people that bought in at the top are seeing it slowly bleed out, and they're selling. But one thing you got to remember is that every sell order is also a buy order. So you can't sell your coins unless somebody else is buying them. A lot of the people that are dumping their coins and getting scared, there's people on the other end of that are buying them at those prices. They're buying it, all the way down to 8,700, and will continue to. Nobody knows how low the market's going to go. But if you look over the history of cryptocurrencies, they have a tendency to kind of skyrocket up, and then they'll slowly peter down until they level out at a certain point, and then something else will come along, and you'll see another sharp rise. So now, historically speaking, looking at it, might be a good opportunity to start buying in smaller quantities, call it dollar cost averaging. So if you set, I'm going to buy $100 a week, even if the price continues to drop, you average out your price of what you paid for your Bitcoin or whatever cryptocurrency you might be investing into.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's still, this is well beyond what anybody predicted that Bitcoin would be worth at this point anyway, isn't it?
Well, I wouldn't say anybody. There was. You always have the skeptics, and people are still saying that it's worth zero and it's going to crash eventually. But no, ever since the early days, 2009, 2010, people that actually saw the utility of it and the value of it, and because of the scarcity of it, have been saying it's going to go to $100,000, $1 million. And I still think that that's reasonable. I'm still highly optimistic that could be the case. I don't know if that'll take 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. Who knows? But again, if you had told somebody last January that Bitcoin was going to be worth $20,000 by the end of the year, they would have laughed at you as well.
Oh, you're nuts. Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, and that's why I'm more of a long-term guy. I'm not riding a roller coaster here. I'm on a cruise.
Right. And I think that's a smart way to do it. You can try to be a day trader. I know people that are, and maybe some people make small trades here and there. But if you're in it just to buy low and sell high and continue to do that, that's very difficult. This market is highly irrational, and I think there's an old saying that the market can stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent. I think that's probably more true in crypto than any other market because it's still new. It's still early days. It's still a market cap, a very small market cap when you're looking at global, decentralized digital assets. there's a lot of room for growth, which also means that there's a lot of room for manipulation at this point, and a lot of that is what we're seeing. So
Yeah, no, and there are a lot of, I don't know, concerns about scams and stuff going around. I mean, there's always been, but right now especially.
yeah, there are, and there are a ton of scams that are going on, and that's one of the reasons that we're here. Hopefully, we can help you, give you some tools and some knowledge to help you avoid some of those scams. And we'll talk about that a little bit more when we start talking into ICOs or initial coin offerings. That's where a lot of the scams are going on right now. Just to give you a kind of a brief overview. So in the past, companies used to raise money through IPOs, initial public offerings of their stocks. Well, now with the cryptocurrency revolution, they can raise digital assets. So they can raise Bitcoin or Ethereum to raise money for their project and launch their project. Which is great. That opens up a lot of doors for people that wouldn't normally be able to participate in those type of things. But what it also does is opens the door for scammers to come out in force. And we've seen a number of big scams just within the last couple of weeks that have, really wiped some people out. So you got to be careful with what you're doing.
I know it's affected a lot of the confidence in the market as well, which that's never a good thing. But that's why I think this correction right now is probably pretty good, because it's kind of weeding some people out.
Yep.
And there are so many altcoins. We'll get to that in jargon later.
Yeah.
So many altcoins out there that there's no way that even maybe 10% of them might survive eventually. So might as well start weeding them out now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right. Anybody can create a cryptocurrency, which is kind of great, because if you have a good idea, you have something that's going to distinguish it from the other coins out there, you can launch your own. And if people find that it is useful and has utility, they can start using it. And if that catches on, then it might become worth a lot more money. But the reality of it is that most coins are not going to do that. They're not going to become that. Like Cory said, they're going to drop down to zero or near zero, and you're going to have a handful of winners in each space. And when I say space, there's different types of tokens. But I think you're going to see a handful of winners in each of those areas within cryptocurrency that are really going to, stand out. And the rest of them are probably going to fade into oblivion.
There you go. I'm sure that's kind of just the history of the way things work, though, isn't it?
Yeah. It's the same thing with the .com bubble. We saw what happened there.
Exactly. All right. So that's kind of a preview almost, if you will, of what's going to be the format of the show and what we're going to be talking about. If right now you're kind of lost and you don't know what's going on, well, you're in here at the perfect show at the perfect time, because that was pretty advanced stuff, in my opinion.
A little bit. Yeah, it may have been.
No, I mean, for me, that's pretty advanced. I sound like I have an opinion because I've been listening to people. But so if you don't really know a whole lot, you're in the right place, because give it a couple of months and you're going to start understanding what the hell Aaron just said.
Yeah, and it really takes, I think, some self-education, and you got to kind of get on a quest of exploration. That all the information is out there. We're going to try to help you, point you in the right direction, and give you some of that. But I also highly encourage you guys to go out there and read the books. There's some really great books out there that are accessible to the average layperson. You can go out there, read them, get some knowledge, a lot of good YouTube videos, and that's primarily where I started. So if you listen to what we have to say, pick up on some of that, and let us help point you in the right direction on some of that, I think you'll be really surprised at how far you can come and how quick you can kind of get going in this space and pick up on what's happening.
Yeah. So anyway, thanks for joining us, Aaron. Looking forward to all this. I think it's going to be a fun ride.
Yeah. I love talking about it, so it's definitely fun.
I know
for me.
you do. So, hey, thanks for tuning in. Segments coming up, and hope you guys enjoy. Remember, feedback, Facebook, Twitter, Telegram, email, all that kind of good stuff.
This is the Clearly Crypto Podcast.
Okay, Aaron, we've talked about what cryptocurrency is, and I hope I'm starting to grasp that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But why should I get involved with it? I mean, what's it to me that I should? I have a bank account.
Right.
Why the hell do I need to get into this digital money?
Yeah, it's a good question. So what, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess maybe the best way to put it is I can give you a little bit about my so what, and maybe you can identify with that a little bit.
I like personal stories.
Yeah, so what? So I think that cryptocurrency was kind of a collision of a lot of different things that were important to me or that mattered in my life. And one of the reasons why, when I heard about it and started looking into it, I kind of fell down the rabbit hole as deep as I did. So first of all, I've never really done business with a bank that I liked. I think that the whole idea of banks is extremely antiquated when you have to wait 3 to 5 business days, only do business during banking hours, especially, so I grew up with the internet revolution. I grew up with the internet doing, dial-up internet when I was probably 10 or 11 years old. So
I was a little bit older.
Right. So the whole idea of banking and writing checks and doing things like that just seems really old and antiquated to me. Also, the amount of fraud and deception and things that go on with these major financial institutions is always...
oh, God, yeah. You have to have a minimum amount in your bank account or they're going to charge you money for not having enough money.
Yeah, no, that's common practice, and it's only getting worse. I heard recently Bank of America... I hate them. You have to have a minimum or they start charging you like $15 a week or something ridiculous like that.
Yeah, how dare you be poor?
Right. So 2008, financial crisis, near financial collapse. I had bought a condo for myself, I think maybe the summer of 2007, so right about at the height of the housing bubble. And then the housing bubble collapsed and popped, and ultimately I ended up losing my condo. At the time I was pretty young, I didn't really understand what was going on, but over the years I kind of learned more, did some research, and found out that most of that was just due to deregulation in the financial industry and the big banks essentially betting against the average American people that were buying these houses. They sold them mortgages that they knew they wouldn't be able to afford and said, this is great, this is a great investment. They gave loans out to everybody, and then they bet against those loans. So they took out these derivative products where they knew they were going to fail and that they would make money against that. So, and how is that not illegal? Right?
How did we even get there, which is another story.
Right.
But
so near financial collapse, the government is forced to bail out these big banks, right?
Yeah, how's
so
that
they're
work?
taking billions of taxpayers' dollars and giving it to the banks. And then what do the banks do? Well, of course they do the right thing, and they pay all their debts, and they make everything
No, they
right.
didn't.
No, they give the CEOs and the CFOs multi-million-dollar bonuses.
You get a bonus, and you get a bonus, and you get a bonus.
And just barely enough to keep from a complete and total financial collapse. So
yeah, but we made reforms after that, right? I mean, it can't ever happen
oh
again.
yeah, absolutely. No, we're just kicking the can down the road. That's a whole other topic, but
but that's why.
Right. So, and it's kind of interesting that so going back to Satoshi Nakamoto created Bitcoin in 2009. Right after that, and in the Genesis block, so the first block of transactions, it was basically him and one other person that were doing Bitcoin at this time. But right into that, he encoded. It was a headline from one of the major papers in the UK that said "Chancellor on brink of second bailout." So what Satoshi was doing was creating a new financial system. He knew that we wouldn't be able to fight the banks. You can't fight the banks. They're too powerful. They got too many politicians in their pockets. So the best way to fight a system is just not to play in the system, right?
Yeah.
Create a new system, a better system.
I don't like your rules. I'm going to go play somewhere else.
Yeah. So when you start looking objectively at the rules of Bitcoin and the rules of the current financial system that we have, it really becomes clear that we need this. This is a better system. This is a more fair system. It gives power back to the people instead of putting it in the hands of the wealthy elite that ultimately are going to become corrupt and do the wrong things with that power, with that money.
So ultimately, or big picture, why we all want to get involved is because it's a better financial system. And the more we get involved, the more rapidly it's going to take over and challenge and overturn this old, clunky, corrupt system that we do have.
Right. Yeah, I think people are blissfully ignorant to the fact that we could very well suffer a financial collapse, crisis, Great Depression, whatever you want to call it. So I would prefer to have my children growing up in a world where they don't necessarily have to be concerned with that. So that was one of the main driving factors that got me interested in it from the get-go. Now, another driving factor, obviously, it can be extremely profitable.
Yeah, I was going to say, because that's noble, all that stuff,
Right.
but most people aren't that noble.
No.
What's in it for me?
Right. That's, you look at some of the rules of Bitcoin, and again, one of the biggest ones, I think I touched on it earlier, is that it's limited in supply. So it's hard-coded into the system that there can ever only be 21 million Bitcoins that will be created.
Digital gold?
Digital gold, but that also has the same characteristics of a global peer-to-peer digital cash system. So if you could take gold and cut it up infinitely and send it to anybody anywhere in the world, then yeah, that's kind of what cryptocurrency is.
So exactly, but not really.
Yeah, there you
Okay, so that's why ideologically, the big picture of things, you want to get into it. But most people aren't that altruistic, let's say. So why do I want to get into it?
Well, I think it's also important to recognize that cryptocurrency and blockchain technologies is the future. If you get away from some of the FUD articles that you'll see out there on the major news sources and look at some of the people in the space that really know what they're talking about, and serious people, serious investors, serious people in the technology space, there's no question anymore whether or not blockchain technologies and cryptocurrencies are going to continue and essentially swallow not just the financial markets, but they're going to change the way that we do basically all types of business. It's going to affect all industries.
So it's not even an if anymore. It's a when.
No, it's a when and a how and in what way. And Bitcoin may not be the winner. It definitely has a lot of it has a good track record. It's been around the longest. It has the longest blockchain.
Yeah, it has the advantage of being first.
It has the advantage. It's got first mover advantage. That doesn't mean that it's going to win out, and I'm not 100% sure that it will.
Ethereum's looking pretty good.
It is, but that's not necessarily a cryptocurrency in the sense that Bitcoin is.
I tried to sound smart.
Right. You're right. So, but that's Ethereum, since you brought it up, is a smart contracts platform, so that you can execute contracts on the blockchain that don't require a third-party intermediary to validate those contracts. I'll give you a real small example, and then we'll get back on track.
Okay.
So escrow, right? Anytime you want to buy a house or do anything, financial contract, usually you need an escrow agent in the middle to hold the monies and pay the monies when whatever action has been executed. So with a smart contract, you can get rid of that. You can lock it up into an Ethereum smart contract, and then when the conditions have been met and both parties are satisfied, those funds can be released. So that cuts out a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of resources in that process. So that's just one small glimpse into what one blockchain platform is doing in one small market segment. But this is going to happen in waves, in droves, in mass across all industries. So that's why you should care, because it's going to change the way that we do everything, and knowledge is power. So if you understand this stuff, if you're staying up on trends, you'll be better positioned to navigate that as it comes.
That's one of the things that we've talked about before is there's a lot of money to be made out there. You have all these new things coming, and unlike the current system we're in with this cryptocurrency things, you can be an initial person that buys into a business instead of, I don't have to be a wealthy investor.
Right.
I can put my $100 into it, give or take. But
right.
I can put, little old me, can invest in this giant thing that's coming up and get the returns just like a multimillionaire who was this, what are they called? What kind of investors?
Accredited investors.
Yeah.
And so, and it's kind of interesting that you brought that up, because this space is changing so rapidly that we'll try to cover as best we can what's going on. But by the time you guys are listening to this, that may have changed. No. And just since Cory brought that up, that was one of the big draws to ICOs, but that's already changing. And a lot of these companies are foregoing allowing anybody to register and contribute, and looking only for accredited investors. And that's a lot, has to do with mostly government agencies ensuring that they're compliant with regulations and things of that nature.
But even now, if you're able to get in on a coin at its infancy, then it has the potential for that exponential growth where I got into Bitcoin at $420.
Right.
Even if it never gets any higher than it is right now, how much money have I made off of that?
Yeah, you would never see those returns in any market. It's crazy. So it's good to stay up with the market trends and know what's going on and what's going to happen in the future. But like you said, this could be very profitable because
it's going to be very profitable in the way that you want to get in sooner rather than later, because there are eventually going to be regulations. There are going to be all these things where this opportunity that we have right now to get in on the ground floor, when the profit margins are going to, it's hugely volatile, but your chance for profit is insane. Right. Whereas in 10 years or so, when it's a ubiquitous thing, everybody's doing it, it's going to be well regulated, government's going to have their hands in things, and you're just going to be your currency. You're not going to be making money hand over fist with this currency.
Exactly. Yeah, it's still very volatile, still a lot of risk, but there's very high reward. So if you throw a little bit of money at it, and you know what you're doing, and you know which platforms, tokens, whatever, look like they're going to be successful, you could take a little bit of money, throw it at it, and like you said, Cory, I think, just got tired of hearing me blabbing on about Bitcoin sitting around the fire, and so he said, you know what, Aaron, shut up. Here's some money. Give me some damn Bitcoin.
Make my Bitcoins.
Yeah, and I don't think it shut me up. I probably just spoke more about
it opened Pandora's box.
Right, but here we are, what is it, 2,000% gain later.
Yeah, and I'm not upset.
And there you go. And a lot of people feel like, well, I've missed the train on Bitcoin. There's already been this massive explosion. I've missed the train on purchasing Ethereum. I don't think that's accurate because it's still very early. It's still very small market caps when you're looking at the potential for a global digital currency. And then also, like you said, there's a lot of other new coins, new projects, new platforms, new tokens that you can get that are still very small and very small market cap that have the potential for massive growth and massive gains.
Yeah, and of course, the one advice that I hope everyone listening does take from this podcast is, if you're not investing what you can't live without,
right,
then your worst case scenario here is that we wind up with a system that helps everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you might not have made a whole crap ton of money off of it, but we're in a better system now.
Right.
That's worst case scenario. As long as you're not investing your retirement in it with, willy-nilly, oh my God, like people just did
right.
recently.
Yeah.
So
don't invest more than you can afford to lose.
Yeah.
If you've got $1,000 laying around, it might be worth, taking a risk and splitting it up or putting it into one particular token or cryptocurrency, but don't bet the farm on it.
Yeah, definitely not. I mean, it's just dumb. People are doing it.
However, this is not financial advice.
No.
Just our opinions, just what we do, but make your own decisions, do your own research. And I think really that's the most important part, and that's kind of what got me going. So if you want to listen to somebody that is really influential in the space, find Andreas Antonopoulos. He's got a lot of great YouTube videos. He's got a lot of great books. He kind of got me going. And one of the things that he always said that has kind of stuck with me is the best investment that you can make in this space is your investment in knowledge. Reading a book or listening to, a talk, some TED Talks, listening to a podcast, that is probably better and smarter than putting $500 into Bitcoin. Because if you really learn, if you understand what's going on, if you understand the space, then you're going to want to get some, and you're going to be comfortable, and you're going to know what you're doing when you're purchasing it.
And knowledge is power. Yeah, I know. Just in getting ready to try to do this podcast, besides learning audiovisual stuff that I never knew about, and I'm still getting better at. Sorry about the quality, guys. I've learned so much more about this cryptocurrency space that we're in, just because of, hey, I've got to figure out what's going on here. So, hey, I listened to what did I say his name?
Andreas Antonopoulos, yeah.
I'm just call him Andre.
Sure.
I'm kidding. Just having to get in and dig up a little bit just so I can figure out topics that we're going to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Anything you do in this space right now, just listening to a podcast gives you a clue about where to go, what questions to ask, because I didn't even know what questions to ask
right
before we started this.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what questions to ask, how are you ever going to learn anything?
Right.
So that's why it's important. That's why I'm glad you guys are listening, because you might not get everything we're saying right now. You might not understand all of it, because there's a lot of jargon. There's a lot of deep dives you have to go to really get into this space.
Right.
But hopefully, at the very least, you're learning how to ask the questions, what's important to ask, what's important to know.
Right.
And there are those resources out there.
And if you've made it this far, you probably already know more than 99% of the people out there. So.
And hey, keep learning. Aaron knows a buttload about this. I know very little getting there. But hopefully, we're all going to learn a lot together, because we're going to have to research the shows that we're going to do, and that's going to make us have to dig deeper. So hopefully you'll benefit from our digging and learning things.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so keep listening.
Yep.
All right, Aaron, good job. I think we got our first episode pretty much recorded.
Yeah, great job.
I'm pretty proud. I think that I don't think that it sounded too stupid. Maybe we'll see. But hey, thank you, listeners. You're going to be what makes this show happen. Our research that we're going to have to do and all the knowledge we're going to try to get to you guys is what's going to keep us going. Get involved on Facebook, Twitter, Telegram, Gmail, clearthecryptopod@gmail.com.
Yep.
We look forward to a whole bunch more episodes. Remember, we're starting off, at least tentatively, at a monthly air date. To be determined what exact day that will be. But
right. So we're trying to get a handful recorded, so we'll be releasing monthly, but hopefully we'll be able to get a few episodes out at a time.
Yeah. So you can get that earworm in, and you can kind of exercise the demon a little bit before you have to wait on the next one.
Yep.
So, hey, next episode, we're going to try to cover a little bit about wallets and security, as well as, well, Aaron does a pretty good job of explaining what the hell value is, because you hear that dropped all the time. Like, well, that has value. This coin has value. Does that token have value? What is value to you? All the time I hear this, and so Aaron's going to finally explain to me what the hell value is.
Clean that up a little bit, clear it out for you.
Yeah.
And I'd like to talk a little bit, too, about some of the other blockchain platforms. You hear a lot about blockchain and Bitcoin, and what is that? What's the difference? What's that mean? So hopefully I can kind of explain to you guys the difference between the two and highlight some of the other blockchain platforms and what that means.
All right. Well, hey, thanks for listening, and hopefully we'll see you next time.
Thank you, guys.
The proceeding was an Acorn production. All opinions expressed are those of the hosts alone. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only. We'd love to hear from you. If you enjoy the show, you can like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Telegram, or email us at clearlycryptopod@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.